This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
And welcome to the GSMC Sports Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. And as always, I am your host, Jesse Tapia. So we are, end of the week, it's Friday, and let me tell you what's going on today. For this first segment, we will be talking about the Hall of Fame game from yesterday. Second segment, we're going to be heading over to the MLB, giving some thoughts over there. Red Sox Yankees started their series up yesterday. We'll talk about that game. And then for the third segment, we will be heading over to the NBA, talking about anything going on over there. And then for the fourth segment, we will be talking about anything else going on in the world of sports. So that's what's going on for today. Not too much news out there, but nonetheless, we got a show to do here. So, obviously, I think a lot of us were very excited heading into this Hall of Fame game. It's been since February, the last time we had a football game to watch, talking about that great Super Bowl. And, there was reason, I guess, to get excited for this game, at least, like I said. You had RG3, Lamar Jackson. I thought Anthony Miller was going to play. Turns out he didn't. But either way, Lamar Jackson and RG3, I feel, are enough to get you excited. So I'm getting home, and I'm home around 4 o'clock or whatnot. Excited for the game, wait an hour. Game gets here, about as excited as I can be, and then you realize, as excited as I was, I'm watching the Hall of Fame game. It's all second, third string guys, and I felt like I should have been prepared for this. I should have known it. I got too excited, I let the hype get too much, and that game was about as boring as it could have gotten. Finished 17-16 with the Ravens winning it. And it wasn't a great game. I'll just say that. Offensive lines were terrible. Quarterbacks were all right. There was no star players. But either way, we had a football game. We got through it. And I guess this is future notice for myself going forward. Don't get so excited over a Hall of Fame game. Maybe the other week 1 preseason games, but the Hall of Fame game by far is the worst. I tried to get through it. After the first quarter, it was 10-7, so we had some scoring. Second quarter, no one scored. Third quarter, Baltimore ended up scoring a touchdown. And then the fourth, we saw, 3 field goals from Chicago. Yeah, it was all right. Not everything I expected, but nonetheless, still a football game that I got to watch. So let's see, some notable players from Chicago. You had Tyler Bray. He threw 34 passes, completed 18 of them. I'm assuming that Chase Daniels got that second quarterback spot locked up, so I'm not sure if there's much of a future for Bray on this team unless they move him to the practice squad. Like I said, he had 181 yards, 1 touchdown. Speaking of Chase Daniel, he completed 8 out of his 16 passes, had 53 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Chase Daniel's been in the league for 10 years. That is ridiculous. He's been in the league for 10 years, and he's accumulated over about $24 million over the course of his career. Once he's done with the Bills, he'll be making about, his total money that he's made is about, I say Bills or I meant Bears. Once he's done with the Bears, total money he's made is be about 30 mil. Or 33. Is it 33, I think? Something around there. Let's see, either way, he came into the league playing with the Saints. Came in 2010. Didn't really play at all. 2013, he moves over to Kansas City for 2 years. Starts 2 games. over the 2 years. He goes 1-1. And since then, I mean, the dude hasn't really played at all. You got to figure, I mean, making $24 million and you've only thrown 78 passes over the course of 10 years, where the majority of them came from 2013, 2014. I mean, look at this. Other than 2013, 2014, 2010, he threw a total of 3 passes. 2011, a total of 5. 2012, a total of 1. 2015, a total of 2. 2016, 1 pass. 2017, did not throw a pass. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. He's made $24 million over the course of his career, and he's only thrown 3 passes in the last 3 years. I'm telling you, the backup quarterback job in the NFL, if you're decent at it, being a backup, and I'm not even sure how you could be decent at it as a backup, because, I mean, a lot of these guys don't play, is the best job in the world, and it doesn't come close. Chase Daniel literally walks around game days with a clipboard. Practice, nobody cares about him because he's the backup. Just as long as you're completing your passes during practice and not just completely terrible, no one's going to pay attention to you. And all you got to do is collect these game checks. I mean, it's incredible. If I didn't want to become a journalist or anything like that, I'd be a backup quarterback. I mean, it's ridiculous how these guys got that great job. I mean, guys like Matt Moore, been a backup quarterback his entire life, getting paid though. Nick Foles could be the ultimate backup quarterback. Carson Wentz is your quarterback, starting quarterback. You don't got to play at all, unless he gets hurt, of course. If I'm Nick Foles, I'm telling him, make me the highest paid backup. I'll sit here till you guys need me. And he's set. I mean, it's ridiculous. But like I said, Chase Daniel had 53 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. Let's see, running the ball. Benny Cunningham, pretty decent name there. 6 carries, 37 yards. Let's see, Javon Wims, receiver that I believe Chicago drafted in the 7th round out of Georgia, had 7 receptions, 89 yards. Let's see, Joshua Bellamy had 2 receptions, 28 yards. And then we head over to Baltimore. RG3 got the start in this one, no Joe Flacco. Curious to see how RG3 was going to look in this game. And he looked good. 7 of 11 throwing the ball, 58 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Took off with it 3 times, got 9 yards total. It's a Hall of Fame game, so I'm not going to go out and say that, oh yeah, RG3 needs to be a starting quarterback or anything like that, or he looked terrible and he should not be in the league. But, I mean, from what we saw in the little moments as far as RG3 being out there, he's still got some talent. Still moves around well, still throws the ball well. I mean, it just seems that if he were to do this for the rest of the preseason, some teams just got to give him a chance. If he could stay healthy, it seems maybe he can still be a starting quarterback in this league. Will that chance ever come? I'm not too sure, given that, I mean, he came into the league in 2012. He's been hurt ever since. I mean, it's just not something that you normally see a team do. But like I said, RG3 was moving around well. Took a couple of hits. Got up. I mean, about as good as it could be for him in this first game. So obviously RG3 was a big story here. I mean, we haven't seen him in a couple of years. But we also had Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson played the entire second half, threw 10 passes, completed 4 of them, 33 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Got sacked 3 times. And then he ran the ball 8 times for 25 yards. Obviously, on the surface, those numbers don't look good at all. His quarterback rating was 42.9. But if you were watching the game close enough, you see Lamar Jackson has the tools to become an explosive quarterback. An explosive quarterback. I mean, looking at his footwork, the way he moved around, and some of the throws he was trying to make, all he needs is a year or 2 of development. And then he'll be a solid starting quarterback in this league, I feel. I mean, I've been saying that you let him sit this year, have Joe Flacco obviously be the starter, RG3 is the backup. Next season, you get rid of Flacco, and then you have RG3 and Lamar Jackson compete for the starting job, where you'll most likely have RG3 winning that one. And then if RG3 doesn't end up working out, that's when you throw in Lamar Jackson. Because there was times where he could have took off and ran with the ball, but chose to throw it. That's what you want to see from a guy like Lamar Jackson. You don't want to be known as the guy who's just going to take off every time And he did get a bit jittery as far as taking off with the ball. I mean, there was times where the pocket, it wasn't even collapsing yet, but he'd take off. So I think he's got to learn a little bit more how to be a pocket passer. Obviously that's not going to be his entire game because he does take off with the ball. But, if he just gets more comfortable in the pocket, takes it easy on his throws, and just gets more accurate, he's going to be a very good quarterback. That's no doubt in my mind. I was expecting Lamar Jackson to go out and tear it up in the second half. A bit naive from me, given that, yes, he could end up being the most talented quarterback in this draft class, but like I said, the guy just needs development. So, Joe Flacco, I guess your job is safe for this year. Of course, unless you stink it up. But either way, there was that. As far as the running backs go, Gus Edwards led Baltimore in rushing with 10 carries for 35 yards. Let's see, I think that was by far the most carries out of anyone. It was. Lamar Jackson came in second with 8 carries. Receiving the ball, it was pretty spread out. Hayden Hurst had 3 receptions for 14 yards and a touchdown. That was Lamar Jackson's touchdown to him. Max Williams caught a 1 pass for 5 yards and a touchdown there. And Brashad Perryman, 2 catches, 19 yards. It also, RG3 threw an interception that was on Perryman. Ball went through Perryman's hands, got batted up. Chicago ended up coming down with it. I think we could all say Brashad Perryman's a bust. A guy didn't even look good yesterday. He hasn't looked good over his career. He's been injured a lot. There's no point, I'd say, in keeping him around. Because right now, actually, they might have to just as for depth. But, the guy doesn't really bring anything to the table. Didn't look good in the preseason game. Didn't show flashes or anything like that. It just seems like he's just a wasted number 1 pick for Baltimore. So, that's what I came away from him. As far as the game itself, like I said, very boring. That's my fault, though, for coming into it all excited. But either way, now we're about to get it going. Next Thursday, we'll have even more football games. And it'll be smooth sailing till February. So I'm excited for it. Either way, we're going to wrap it up here. Next up, we're going to be talking about the MLB. So stay tuned, and I will be right back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We spent that first segment talking about the Hall of Fame game. Like I said, probably got a little too excited for it and just didn't realize that, I'm watching the Hall of Fame game. This is usually the worst game of the preseason, so pump the brakes a bit, Jesse. I didn't listen to myself. A couple minutes in, I think after the first drive, I was like, this game's going to stink. And it did. But, at least we got to watch RG3 play for a bit, saw what Lamar Jackson can do. And like I said, as far as Lamar Jackson, it's clear he shouldn't be starting. It's clear that he probably shouldn't play this season. But the guy's got the tools in order to become a great quarterback. He's just got to develop for a year or two. So, we'll see about that. I'm sure next Thursday we'll see more of the teams playing a lot of their starters. Obviously, they're not going to play for a while or anything like that, but usually that's for the third preseason game, but either way, football's back finally. I think we could all say that. I know it's just preseason, but either way, we got football games on TV. It's great news. Of course, you get the Canadian Football League if you're a Canadian Football League fan, but I am not much of one. And I forgot, too, tonight we got Johnny Manziel starting for the Montreal Alouettes. I'm going to see if I can find that game if ESPN's not showing it. But either way, we move on to the MLB. Red Sox-Yankees beginning their 4-game series yesterday on Thursday, and Yankees hopped out to a 4-0 lead after the first couple of innings. And it all just went wrong after that. It jumped out to a 4-0 lead. After 3 innings, it's 4-2. And CC Sabathia gets pulled after the third. He threw 77 pitches. He had 4 walks, gave up a homer, 2 earned runs, 3 hits, and only threw 45 strikes. Maybe he could have won another inning, but I mean, you could tell Boston was starting to knock him around a bit. It looked like they were just about to break it open. So CC comes out, and in the 4th inning, Jonathan Holder comes in. And Jonathan Holder maybe pitched about as poorly as I've ever seen from anyone since I've been watching the MLB. That might be a bit of an over-exaggeration, but either way, Holder comes in, and the guy is just rattled. Absolutely rattled. I mean, giving up hit after hit, and I mean, this is solid contact, too. It's not like the Red Sox are hitting bloop singles or anything like that. Like, they're hitting the ball solid. And, like I said, he's giving up hit after hit, starting to give up some runs. And he's not getting outs, by the way. Like, he didn't even pitch a full inning. He came into the game in the 4th, did not get 1 out. His numbers for that 4th inning, and again, did not get an out. Gave up 7 runs total, 5 hits, a walk, and a home run. I mean, the guy, when I say he was struggling, he was absolutely struggling. Looked like he didn't even belong on the mound out there. I mean, pretty much letting the Red Sox tee off on the ball, not getting too many strikes. And it's just poor fielding by a pitcher also. Ball gets hit back to him. Jackie Bradley's pretty much caught in no man's land between third and home. All Holder's got to do is run at him and then get the ball to third, since Jackie's going to be heading back there. But Holder just kind of freezes. And, yeah, he just froze. He freezes, doesn't know what to do with it, throws the ball to third base. Jackie's already taken off. And Jackie Bradley Jr. ends up scoring at home on a play where he absolutely should not have. I mean, it was honestly bad base running until he was safe. So that happened, and like I said, after that, it was pretty much like that was the momentum shifter right there, Jackie Bradley Jr. scoring. Because once that happened, I mean, Holder, like I said, was just absolutely rattled. Gave up a double steal. Actually, was it a double steal? I know Benintendi ended up taking second base, but I can't remember if Mookie was on second base also, and they ended up going to, like, if it was a double steal or if Mookie was already on third. But either way, I think it was Mookie with those runners on the corner. So it was Mookie on third, Benintendi on first. Benintendi takes off. You see the catcher yelling at Holder, throw the ball, throw the ball. Holder doesn't react in time, so Benintendi saved that second. Obviously, this guy's got to field his position a whole lot better. I mean, the mistakes he was making yesterday, those are little league mistakes right there. And that's the basics that they teach you as you're coming up in the ranks. So he comes out, and, I mean, Yankees bullpen, you probably wanted them to, eat up some innings. I mean, it didn't really work that way. Sessa comes in, gives up 7 hits, 5 runs. I mean, he did pitch 3.2 innings or whatever you want to call it. 3 innings, 2 outs into his 4th. But, I mean, it just wasn't great. And like I said, Brian Jansen was a starter for the Red Sox this game. He played 5 innings, gave up 4 runs, 4 earned runs, 5 of them total, 6 hits. Did come over with 11 strikeouts. I mean, it was one of those all-over-the-place type of starts for him. But either way, I mean, he finished it strong. Brandon Workman comes in for 2 innings after that. Gives up a run, but either way, Red Sox were up big already at that point. So, game ended up finishing Boston 15, New York 7. Boston, if I'm not mistaken, extended their divisional lead to 6.5. Might even be 6. But, I mean, the Yankees, they're not winning the division this year. I think we can all come and agree with that. I mean, losing Judge for this month, also with Gary Sanchez, even though Sanchez has been terrible, is going to be tough. And it's just this team, it seems like it's trying to figure themselves out. The Yankees started off the season real hot. We're keeping up pace with the Red Sox, and it's just the Red Sox went one way, the Yankees went the other. And it's just watching the Yankees, it's like directionless baseball. It's very odd. I mean, the way they managed the bullpen, I don't think Holder should have lasted as long as he did. I mean, after the third run and no outs, he should have been pulled. And I just think we're at a point where Aaron Boone's got to start making some big managerial decisions, but he's struggling to do that. As far as, like I said, for instance, managing the bullpen. So, we'll see what happens with New York going forward. I mean, I'm assuming that first wild card spot's all but locked up for them. They're 5.5 games up on the A's right now for that first spot. And speaking of the A's, they are now holders of that second wild card spot, half game up on the Mariners. I mean, that was bound to happen. The Mariners are currently at -13 as far as run differential. The A's are +51. I mean, it's not that hard to decide who the better team is between the two. I think the Mariners were always pretenders. The A's are actually a decent team. But either way, like I said, I mean, right now the A's are in a series with the Blue Jays, if I'm not mistaken. Yankees don't get it going against the Sox. I mean, that wild card race could shrink by a very big margin. I mean, right now you get the Yankees up 5.5. I think the A's got about 2 more. Yankees got 3 more. If Yankees were to get swept, A's were to win their next 2 games, I think A's would be down about 3.5 games. So, we'll see what ends up happening there. Let's see, is there any other news we need to talk about before we head into yesterday's scores? Pablo Sandoval's out for the year with a hamstring tear. I mean, that guy's career went from being the top of the top to just the bottom of the bottom. Once he left San Francisco for Boston, I mean, that was it for Pablo Sandoval. I mean, I remember watching him at Boston, and he was absolutely terrible. It was one of those where he got cashed out and was pretty much content on just playing out the rest of his career just to make his money. I mean, the Red Sox paid him, $47 million to go away? It's not great. Not great at all. I think that's pretty much it. That's all that went down. So let's move on to the scores of Thursday's games and see what we got going on. So let's see. For Thursday, you had the Rays beating the Angels 4-2. Cardinals beating the Rockies 3-2. White Sox beating the Royals 6-4. Had the Phillies beating the Marlins 5-2. Nationals beating the Reds 10-4. Like I said, Boston beat the Yankees 15-7. Braves beat the Mets 4-2. Rangers beat the Orioles 17-8. You had the Padres beating the Cubs 6-1. Dodgers beat the Brewers 21-5. Giants beat the Diamondbacks 8-1. Big win for the Giants there. They're now 56-54. And then you had the Blue Jays beating the Mariners 7-3. So I'm assuming on Wednesday is when the Blue Jays and A's concluded their series. So let's see, what are the games going on today for Friday? We got the Cubs and Padres playing right now. That game's currently in the top of the 5th. Cubs currently up 4-1. We got the Reds and Nationals playing later on today. Marlins, Phillies. Cardinals, Pirates, Game 2 between the Yankees and Red Sox. We got Rick Porcello versus Luis Severino. Both pitchers have struggled their last few starts, so it's going to be an interesting one to watch. Angels playing the Indians. We got the Braves going up against the Mets. White Sox, Rays. Orioles, Rangers. Rockies, Brewers. Royals, Twins. Giants, Diamondbacks. Astros, Dodgers. Tigers, A's. Blue Jays, Mariners. Once again. So, I mean, the A's playing the Tigers. Tigers are pretty terrible. I think we could all assume. So, A's got to come away with a few wins in this series and hope that the Red Sox take a couple more against the Yankees. And as for the standings around the league, it's the AL East. Like I said, Red Sox currently up 6.5 on the Yankees. Indians going to win their division. The Astros are currently 5 games up on the A's, 5.5 up on the Mariners. Over in the NL East, you got the Phillies who are a half game up on the Braves. 5 up on the Washington Nationals, who are now 2 games over 500 at 55-53. The Cubs, 1 game up on the Brewers. Dodgers, 1 game up on the Diamondbacks, 2 up on the Rockies, and 5 up on the Giants. We already checked out the AL wildcard situation. Let's look at the NL wildcard. Brewers maintain that first spot over the Braves by 1.5 games. Braves holding that second spot, up a half game on the Diamondbacks, 1.5 games up on the Rockies, 4 games up on the Cardinals and Pirates, 4.5 up on the Nationals and Giants. So that race is still pretty close. We'll see how it all ends up, but either way, we're going to wrap it up here. Next up, we're going to be talking some NBA, so stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. Spent that first segment talking about the dreadful Hall of Fame game that was yesterday. I mean, I was excited for football to be back, but I should have realized this was going to be the worst game to watch. I mean, it was boring. Of course, we got to see RG3 and Lamar Jackson, but either way, I mean, it wasn't fun to watch. Second segment, we talked about the MLB. Yankees got blown out by the Red Sox yesterday. Jonathan Holder, about as bad as you could be. He's now in that wildcard spot, taking over from the Mariners, so we'll see if they're able to maintain that. But now, we move on over to the NBA, so let's see what's going on around the league. ESPN came out with their win projections for the West. Let me read those off. You got the Warriors at 58.6. And again, I mean, I'm not really more so looking at the win projections, but rather than who they have in the top 8 and who they don't. So you got the Warriors at 1 with 58.6 wins. Jazz at number 2 with 53.4. Rockets, 53 wins at 3rd. Nuggets at 4th with 50.5. The Timberwolves at 5th with 49.6. Thunder at 6th with 47.2 wins. Pelicans in 7th with 44.1 wins. Blazers 8th at 42 wins. And then, again, yes, you saw those 8 teams. Warriors, Jazz, Rockets, Nuggets, Timberwolves, Thunder, Pelicans, Blazers. Then at 9th, finally, they got the Lakers at 41.2 wins. And then at 10th, they got these Spurs at 38.5. I mean, I don't hate these projections. I really don't. I think that the Rockets, Jazz, and Warriors are going to be the top 3 teams in the West, with the Warriors being number 1, and then I'm assuming the Jazz and Rockets fighting for 2nd. Loser of that comes out to 3rd. The Nuggets are going to be a much improved team this season. I think they're going to take the next step. The Timberwolves, I mean, last year with Jimmy Butler, they were on their way to being the number 3 seed. Then Jimmy Butler ends up getting hurt for the last month and a half, and I mean, that team just ends up falling down to the 8th spot. So, I mean, I have no problem with them being there 5th with Jimmy Butler back. Thunder at 6th. I think that's the right spot. I think they get better without Melo. And I think Paul George and Russ Westbrook are going to do fine this season. Pelicans at 7th. I'm not sure how much I believe in the Pelicans. They lost Rondo. You lost DeMarcus Cousins. You did add Julius Randle, though. Julius Randle, I thought, was one of the top 2 players on the Lakers last season. Obviously, all the hype was surrounding Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, Alonzo Ball. But if you watch Randle, I mean, the guy played extremely well for that team. He's not a great shooter or anything like that. I wouldn't even say he's a shooter. He plays kind of like a Draymond Green, where he's not the biggest guy, but he's going to try and bully you down low. And he's going to get his points, whether or not. And he also gets rebounds and plays solid defense too, I'd say. So I do like to pick up him going to the Pelicans, but I'm not sure how good they're actually going to be. And then you get the Blazers at 8th with 42 wins. I mean, yeah, I like that. I don't really trust the Blazers too much. I never have. Usually they're a team who usually middle of the pack in the West, make the playoffs but won't do much in the first round. They ended up finishing as a 3 seed in the West last year, but of course got swept by the Pelicans. And then you get the Lakers at 9th. That obviously had to be the hot take. The Lakers, if you're looking at the team, are not great. And what I mean by that is you got LeBron James, but you don't really have a second great player around him. I mean, adding Michael Beasley, Rondo, Lance Stevenson, JaVale McGee, is that really what is going to bring the Lakers back to the top? I mean, obviously, like I said, you got LeBron there, so that helps. But as far as his role players, I mean, they're not great. They're not great at all. Do I think the Lakers are going to make the playoffs? Yes. They'll probably end up making it in